Have you ever found yourself truly lost? Adrift not in a physical wilderness, but in the blinding, endless sea of digital light that pours from the small screen in your hand? Have you ever felt a profound sense of dislocation while scrolling through an infinite river of fleeting images and ephemeral sounds, each one promising a moment of connection, yet collectively leaving you with a chilling sense of isolation that you can't quite articulate? You are not alone in this feeling. This experience, this silent, persistent ache in the modern soul, is not a random malfunction of our times. It is a design, a meticulously crafted and deeply embedded reality that was prophesied by wise voices decades ago. What if I were to tell you that the seemingly harmless, absurdly funny videos that flicker across your screen, demanding mere seconds of your attention, are not just fleeting moments of entertainment? What if they are, in fact, the final, perfected products of a vast and powerful system, one designed with a singular purpose: to lull your spirit into a deep, comfortable, and ultimately powerless slumber? This is a system that masterfully replaces the profound with the profane, the authentic with the artificial, the real with the spectacle. If you feel a stirring deep within your being as you read these words, a tremor of recognition, a sense of a truth that has long been a whisper at the edge of your consciousness, then I ask you to stay with me. This message is your awakening. It is a divine signal, a sign from your higher self that your soul recognizes the grand illusion being played out before us. If this truth resonates with the deepest chambers of your heart, let your energy be known. Affirm your presence in this moment of clarity. Like this message, subscribe to this channel of awakening, and share your own journey, your own moments of recognition, in the comments below. Write "I resonate" or "I am awake" to declare your part in this great shift, for it is in our shared recognition that we discover our collective strength and reclaim our divine sovereignty. Let us journey back in time, to the 1940s, an era that now feels like a distant, monochrome echo in our hyper-colored world. It was then that two profound thinkers, Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer, peered through the veil of their present and into the heart of our future with an unsettling and prophetic clarity. They gifted humanity a concept, a key to understanding the coming age: the culture industry. This was not merely an academic term, it was a dire warning, a spiritual forecast of a world to come. They saw the dawning of an age where the sacred fire of culture, the art that once tore holes in our perception of reality, the music that could voice the soul's deepest yearning, the stories that held the divine power to disturb our comfortable complacencies, provoke our most challenging thoughts, and illuminate the darkest, unexamined corners of our souls would be captured, domesticated, and mass-produced for consumption. They foresaw a vast and intricate system, a veritable factory of the spirit, that would take the raw, untamed, and often chaotic essence of human creativity and repackage it into standardized, easily digestible products, like identical meals served on a global conveyor belt. In their profound vision, this was not a grassroots movement, not a spontaneous uprising of popular taste blossoming from the heart of the people. No, this was a top-down orchestration, a subtle and pervasive form of control engineered by the relentless engines of modern capitalism. It was a system designed not to elevate, but to manage, to shape our deepest desires before we even knew we had them, to mold our thoughts into predictable patterns, and to direct our behaviors toward a single end: the preservation of a status quo that thrives on our passivity and our distractedness. That which was once art, with its wild and sacred capacity to challenge, to disrupt, and to transform the very fabric of our being, would be methodically reduced to mere entertainment, a soothing balm for a restless mind, a momentary distraction from the weight and wonder of life's deeper questions. Now, let us quantum leap through the decades, from that stark, prophetic vision to our immediate, present moment. Look around you, feel the frequency of the air. The culture industry that Adorno and Horkheimer warned of has not only arrived, but it has achieved its most distilled, its most potent, and its most intimate form. It is no longer a distant factory or a faraway broadcast tower. It lives and breathes in the palm of your hand. Consider the viral spread of absurd, Short-form videos, the chaotic, nonsensical, and utterly hypnotic trends that flash across our screens in a dizzying, unending cascade. Think of a trend like the Bombardico Crocodilo Tuntun Sour phenomenon, a perfect and almost comically tragic emblem of this very cultural degeneration. These 15-second fragments of absurdity are not random aberrations or harmless quirks of digital life. They are the perfectly engineered outputs of a system that has refined its methods to an art form, a system that has learned to reward the spectacle over substance, the immediate jolt over enduring insight, the fleeting glimpse over profound depth. Their profound incoherence is not a flaw in their design, it is their most powerful and effective feature. They are crafted with a kind of surgical precision, designed to bypass the protective gates of your critical thought, to slip past the vigilant sentinels of reason and logic that guard your inner world. Their purpose is not to engage your mind, but to hijack your nervous system. They stimulate only the most basic, the most primal of reactions. A flash of surprise, an involuntary burst of laughter, a fleeting moment of pure confusion. These reactions are undeniably powerful in their immediacy, but they are utterly and tragically detached from any real meaning, like a flash of lightning without the thunderous roar that gives it consequence, or a powerful wave that crashes on the shore but originates from no ocean, leaving behind only a shallow, quickly evaporating foam. Adorno understood this insidious mechanism with a chilling foresight that echoes powerfully today. He saw that within the gilded cage of the culture industry, entertainment ceases to be a simple pleasure and becomes a primary tool for conformity. This is not the brutal, overt conformity of force, of chains and prison walls that a totalitarian regime might impose. It is a much more subtle, much more insidious kind of controller, quiet, pervasive hypnotism that is achieved through the sheer, overwhelming force of endless repetition. It is a gentle, invisible current that pulls you along, a soft, seductive whisper in your ear that makes the state of passivity feel not just easy, but exquisitely pleasurable. The short video format, with its endless, algorithmically curated feed, is the ultimate and most perfect realization of this hypnotic mechanism. It offers a constant, unrelenting stream of stimulation, a dopamine drip without ever demanding true, conscious engagement from you. It provides an infinite well of distraction without ever presenting a genuine, soul-stretching challenge. The infinite scroll of absurdity is a form of conditioning. It trains us to become voracious, passive consumers rather than active, reflective beings. We are trained to laugh without ever asking why something is funny, to share without ever considering what message we are amplifying into the collective consciousness. In this paradigm, the user is no longer a conscious participant in the creation of culture. They become a mere node in the network, a passive conduit for the trend. They become a part of the machine, unconsciously and automatically replicating its sounds, its gestures, its empty, circular logic. And what, truly, is the logic of this system? It is the logic of noise for the sake of noise, a logic of distraction for the sake of distraction, a form of cultural sedation designed to keep the soul comfortably, peacefully, and perpetually numb. Decades later, the French philosopher Guy Debord expanded upon this foundational vision with his declaration that we have now fully entered the society of the spectacle. For Debord, the spectacle is not merely a collection of images we watch on screens. It is something far more profound and pervasive. It is a new form of social relationship, a new mode of being, where our connections with each other and with ourselves are mediated almost entirely by images. It is a world where the authentic, unscripted, and often messy experience of life has been systematically replaced by its polished, curated representation. Life, in the society of the spectacle, is no longer something to be directly lived and felt in its raw intensity, but something to be viewed, curated, packaged, and performed for an audience. The world no longer appears to us as it is, in its organic complexity, but as it is shown to us through the filtered lens of the spectacle. Reality itself is displaced by its image, and our lived, embodied experience is replaced by the performance of that experience. We see the stark fulfillment of this prophecy every single time we unlock our phones. In our digital culture, we no longer simply live, we broadcast. Every meal becomes a photo opportunity, every sunset a backdrop for a selfie, every fleeting emotion a potential piece of content to be shared and validated. The absurd viral trends we witness are the very essence of this spectacle. They are what the philosopher Jean Baudrillard, building upon Debord's work, would later call simulacra, perfect, high-fidelity copies of something that never had an original to begin with. They are pure, unadulterated surface, completely detached from any anchor in reality or meaning. Their terrifying and seductive power lies precisely in this emptiness. The frantic gestures, the nonsensical sounds, the exaggerated facial expressions, they don't refer to anything real, emotional, or meaningful outside of themselves. And in a world where the surface has become the message, where the image is more potent than the reality it supposedly represents, these meaningless performances gain an ironic, almost divine power. They feel more vibrant, more immediate, and ultimately more real than reality itself. This line of thought leads us to another chilling prophecy, this one from Neil Postman, who in his 1985 masterpiece wrote of the danger of amusing ourselves to death. Postman masterfully contrasted two distinct dystopian visions, the world of George Orwell's 1984, where a totalitarian state controls its populace through overt force, surveillance, and fear, and the world of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, where control is achieved not through pain, but through an endless supply of pleasure, distraction, and pharmacological bliss. Huxley feared a world where humanity would come to love its oppression, to adore the very technologies and amusements that undo our capacities to think critically and feel deeply. Postman warned, with startling prescience, that the greatest threat to a free and conscious society wasn't the iron fist of tyranny or the heavy hand of censorship, but a culture so utterly saturated with entertainment that it no longer takes any ideas seriously at all. When we look at our current digital landscape, it is hard not to see Huxley's and Postman's vision unfolding with breathtaking precision. We are not being silenced by force. We are being voluntarily drowned in a relentless flood of joyful, trivial noise. When public discourse itself is dominated by the logic of entertainment, where everything must be fast, fun, and immediately gratifying, all serious, nuanced conversation becomes functionally impossible. How can you speak of ethics, politics, or the meaning of existence when the dominant cultural force is a viral trend based on a dancing crocodile and incoherent sounds? The issue is not merely that people prefer these videos. It is that the very medium itself, with its insatiable demand for speed and spectacle, actively trains the mind to reject anything more demanding. When profound meaning must compete for our attention with instantly gratifying memes, the memes will always win, not because they are better or more valuable, but because they are easier. Easier to consume, easier to share, easier to forget. The intellectual and spiritual life of a society simply cannot survive on a diet composed entirely of endless, empty amusement. And here, at this crucial juncture, we arrive at the very heart of our modern condition, a diagnosis offered with profound insight by the South Korean-born German philosopher Byung-Chul Han. Han argues that we have transitioned from a disciplinary society, characterized by prohibitions and overt control, to a performance society. This new world is not defined by repression, but by a relentless, self-imposed drive for constant performance and self-optimization. In this context, the viral absurdity of short-form videos is not just a fleeting distraction. It is a symptom of a much deeper cultural compulsion, the existential need to be seen at all costs. In the performance society, visibility is the new currency. Substance is secondary. The more exaggerated, the more shocking, the more immediately eye-catching, the better. In this system, depth becomes an obstacle, a liability, something that slows you down in the frantic race for attention. The rich, complex inner world of the individual is rendered irrelevant, even worthless, if it cannot be instantly converted into a consumable package of views, likes, and shares. Han describes a world where every individual becomes their own marketing department, constantly branding, performing, and curating a public version of themselves for others to consume. This endless cycle of self-production is not just psychologically exhausting, it is profoundly addictive. The user is trapped, not by an external force, but by an internal desire, the deep-seated desire to matter, to belong, to be seen. And in this desperate attempt to stand out, we paradoxically dissolve into an ocean of sameness. Everyone performs the same nonsensical challenges, uses the same trending audio, and mimics the same gestures, all while being convinced of their unique individuality, a perfect, self-perpetuating script of conformity disguised as rebellion. The viral trends that we see today are not content in the traditional, meaningful sense. They are simulations of content. They are meticulously crafted to simulate humor without ever being genuinely funny, to simulate communication without ever saying anything of substance, and to simulate identity without a shred of true authenticity. People perform them not because they believe in them or find joy in them, but because performing them is the only recognized way to exist, to be visible in the bustling, chaotic digital agora. The terrifying brilliance of this state, which Baudrillard called hyper-reality, is that it requires absolutely no belief from its participants, only repetition. It thrives and grows on its own profound emptiness. A person might know, on a deep, intuitive level, that a particular video trend is pointless and devoid of value, but they will still mimic it. Why? Because the simulation, the performance, is what grants social currency. In this environment, even intelligence becomes performative. People no longer strive to be thoughtful, they strive to look thoughtful. Irony becomes a protective shield against the vulnerability of sincere emotion. Emotion itself is flattened into an aesthetic, a filter, a pose, and meaning. Meaning becomes optional, a luxury that few have the time or attention for. What truly matters is visibility, and the algorithms that govern our digital lives do not reward truth or depth. They reward traction, engagement, and the ability to capture attention for a fleeting moment. Baudrillard saw this rise of hyperreality as the death of the symbolic order, the death of the real as something sacred, elusive, complex, and ultimately worth pursuing. What remains when the real recedes is the endless, self-referential loop of images and sounds, completely detached from any origin, seducing us with their polished, high-definition absurdity. The digital idiot, who might have once been an exception or a fringe character, is now the cultural protagonist, not because they have something important to say, but because they intuitively understand how to play the game of simulation better than anyone else. They become the influencers, the content creators, the viral stars. They are the icons of a system where intelligence is no longer measured by the quality of one's thought, but by the quantity of one's reach. And so, here we are, surrounded by a swirling vortex of absurdity, addicted to the constant drip of distraction, and laughing as the tangible world of substance and meaning quietly dissolves beneath a relentless flood of digital noise. The ultimate tragedy is not that we don't know what's happening to us. It is that we do know, on some level, yet we keep clicking, keep scrolling, keep participating anyway. We have become hollow performers in a vast, echoing theater of distraction. And as we perform, the world outside the screen, the world of real connection and unmediated experience, begins to lose its texture, its color, its very reality. Our conversations become rehearsed scripts, our emotions become curated content, and our lived experience becomes something you document for an audience, not something you inhabit for yourself. The real danger is not that our world is full of idiots. The real danger is that we might collectively stop seeing the difference between wisdom and noise. But this is not a call for despair, nor is it a call for elitism or a sense of superiority. The very first step toward resistance, toward reclaiming our spirit, is humility. It is the courage to admit that we, too, are seduced by the scroll, that we are all pulled into the cycle, and that we have all been numbed by the endless repetition. The second, crucial step is awareness. It is the conscious choice to begin seeing the patterns, to question the trends that demand our mindless participation, and to break the hypnotic spell. To reclaim the sanctity of our inner world, we must learn to consciously and intentionally cultivate spaces for silence and reflection, places where our thoughts can breathe and our souls can be nourished, not just endlessly stimulated. In a world of constant noise, choosing silence will feel strange. In a culture of hyperconnection, choosing solitude may feel lonely at first. But maybe that is precisely the point. Maybe we need a little solitude to remember that true intelligence is not about being louder than everyone else. It's about being more awake, more present, and more deeply connected to the still, small voice within.